testing mode. Face the board. Okay, this is for the regular kids, the Algebra 1 review. So if you're an honors kid, you're watching the wrong review. Okay, number 1, you can just start by choosing A and trying it out. If it works, good. If it doesn't, try B, try C, try them all until you figure out which one works. So -1, I'm going to replace a -1 for both those x's. So it's going to be a -1 right there equals a -1 right there. So what is a -1 squared? What's -1 times a -1? And what is the square root of a +1? So is 1 really equal to a -1? No, that's false. And that's what they want you to find. They want you to find which one do you plug in that gives you a false answer. Because B, C, and D, if you plug them all in, they all give you true statements. 1A is the only one that gives you a false. Okay, 2. Sweet. Yeah, let's get everything on the same side. So it's -2, -2. So now look at it as x squared minus x minus 20 is equal to nothing. Can you factor it? Do there exist numbers that times and give you -20, add and give you -1? Sweet. 4 and 5. So it's going to be x and x, 4 and 5, and what did you say? -4 and +5? Hold on. That works this way. That gives you a -20, but you got to add them, and they've got to give you a -1. So you must have more negatives than positives. So the 4's got to be plus, and the 5's got to be minus. Because the -5 plus 4, there's your -1. Okay, but now, if you multiply them and your answer is 0, that means you must times by a 0. So what's going to make this a 0? And what would make this a 0? -4 or a +5. So it's got to be C. Way, kind of in a clever way, it's asking you to find the second answer. So this is one answer. What is the second answer? B. Answer is 3. So look, it's the exact same problem as the one before. It's the x squared minus 5x plus 6 is 0. What times this gives you a 6 adds and gives you -5? It's got to be 2 and 3, but they both have to be negative, because a -2 times a -3 is a +6, but a -2 and a -3 is -5. So their two answers are going to be 2 or 3. So they gave you one of the answers. They're just asking you in a clever way, what's your second answer? And it's B. Second answer's got to be 3. Okay, number 4. Okay, so if you totally don't know, you could just start with A. Try A. Plug it in there for X, and then do the arithmetic. And if your answer is 0, it has to be, that's a good chance it's A. So the algebra way, 3x squared minus 48 is 0. It's an equation, solve for X. So let's undo the subtraction first. Let's add 48 to both sides. And then you got 3x squared equals 48. Now undo the times by 3, divide by 3, divide 3, and we've got x squared is equal to 16. Now you got to undo the squares. So you square root the left, square root the right. Anytime you do a square root, it's going to be plus or minus. And 16 is a perfect square, plus or minus 4. So that's C. Okay, it's A, it's nonlinear. Linear has to be a straight line, and this is kind of a curvy line, so it's definitely nonlinear. But C, let's talk about C, because this question will show up they'll give you a picture and they're going to ask you, is it a function? Yes or no. The slickest way to tell is the vertical line test. Do you guys remember the vertical line test? If you can draw a vertical line through your picture and it touches more than once, then your answer is no. This is not a function. But if look at this picture, if you've got a graph that looks something like this, anywhere you draw a vertical line, if it touches just one time, then it's legit. That is a function. So look at the kind of logic of it. If x is 2, so on the x-axis, if you go over 2 times right here, what is y? If you go over 2 and if you go up, y could be 2, right? But what if you go over 2 and you go down? Then y could be a negative 2. Okay, this is the problem right here. You cannot have 2 totally different answers. So for example, this will totally make sense right here. Let's say we're studying Delta's population. So this is the year and this is the population. So let's say we did 2012, there was a population of 5,000 people. But then we did a study 2012, there was 10,000 people. How can this be? How can you have the same year give you 2 totally different answers? And the answer is you can't. That's impossible. It's describing something impossible. You can never have 2 different answers from your same x. The easiest way to tell is your vertical line test. If you draw a vertical line through it and it touches more than once, it's not a function. Can you get the rule? What's the rule for this? Y equals x. Nice. So this one is changing at a linear rate. So it's changing at a constant rate. Your x's kind of skip around. That went up twice, right? But then this went up once and then it goes up twice again. But your y's did the exact same thing. That went up twice, that went up once, that went up twice. So what is your change? How much does it change every single time? Does it go up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4? How much does it go up every single time? Every single time it goes up 1. So that's what you're going to times by. You're going to times by 1. And then what's the number you have to fudge at the end to end up at 6? So look, if you take 6 and times by 1, you end up at 6, which is where you need to. So what is the b? What's your y-intercept? 0. You don't need to fudge at the end. You don't need to add or take away. So your equation is y equals 1x plus 0. Just y equals x. 7. If you just look at your answers, they're kind of funky. So before we even go, if we look at our answers, that probably is going to mean this is not factorable. So because it starts with the 1, I love it because chances are I can factor it are pretty good. So does there exist numbers that multiply and give you 5 but add and give you negative 2? And there does not exist any easy numbers. There may be some fractions or square roots or something funky. So if you cannot factor it, you have got to use x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over. And this for sure is going to show up on the test. You're going to have quadratic formula problems. So we got to find a, we got to find b, we got to find c. A is going to be always the number in front of your square, so that's a 1. B, just in order, the number in front of your x, that's a negative 2. C is going to be the constant number all by itself. So now you're going to go x equals a negative b plus or minus the square root. Put this in parentheses. B squared minus 4 times 1 times 2, no, times c, which is a 5. all over 2 times 1. Okay, now let's clean it up. A minus minus 2 is a plus 2. Under the square root, a negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. And 4 minus 20 is a minus 16 all over 2. Okay, now my eyeballs go right here. This is going to be an imaginary. You can never have the square root of a negative. So let's go 2 plus or minus an imaginary square root of 16. I'm just going to take the negative out and make it imaginary. But then I like this too. What's the square root of 16? So you got 2 plus or minus 4i divided by 2. And then you can divide both those by 2. I can divide that by 2 and I can divide that by 2. So it's going to be 1 plus or minus 2i. And that's how we end up with B. A system of equations. You got to find the one x and y that makes them both true. So look, if you don't know, I mean these ones you can 100% know you're right or wrong. Let's try A. Let's put x for 10. So what's 2 times 10? So now you're 20. Now let's put negative 2 for y. What's negative 2 times 2? Is 20 and a negative 4 really a 16? So it works for the top, but it has to also work for the bottom. So let's do the 10 for the times 3. What's 3 times 10? And then what's negative 2 times 3? So is 30 and a negative 6 really a 14? No. So it's not A. So you can go through them one at a time and see which one it is. But if you want to do, and that way you're guaranteed you got it right. You didn't miss it. But algebraically, if you add them up, you want to eliminate them. So if you add them up, you're going to get 5x's, you're going to get 4y's, but nothing eliminated, so you got to stop. Yes. You got to force it to eliminate if it will not on its own. And your eyeballs should look at these y's and think those will be pretty easy to eliminate if I make that a minus. But you got to make that a minus, you got to make that a minus. You got to change everything. So 2x take away 3x is a minus x. There's your 0. 16 take away 14 is 2. So if you have a negative x equals 2, just reverse the signs. A positive x has to equal a negative 2. And right now you're lucky because that's the only one that works. So you don't even need to go further. You can stop. It's got to be B. What about 9? Try 9. Work. So if you thought it was A, let's prove A wrong. Okay, that's X, that's Y. So let's try the top right here. So let's put 0 for Y, let's put 0 for X. Does 0 equal 0? Okay, the top is okay. Plug it for the bottom. 0 equals 2 times 0 plus 5. Does 0 equal 0 plus 5? No. So A is wrong. It cannot at all be A. So whatever you think it is, you've got to plug it in and make sure it works. Let's do another one real quick. B. Let's say x equals 3, y equals negative 1. Okay, y is negative 1. So negative 1 equals 3 times x. Does negative 1 equal 9? So really quick, we got A done, we got B done. So you can go through and plug them in and go that way. This way is easy. Add them up. And if you add them up vertically, you have 2y equals 5x plus 5. Okay, stop. You want to eliminate either your y's or your x's. And if they don't naturally on their own eliminate, you have to force them to. So do you want to force your y's or do you want to force your x's? Force your y's. Because your y's, if this was y take away y, that would be 0. But if that's going to be subtract y, you got to change that to minus, you got to change that to minus, you got to change them all. So y's will be pretty easy. Just subtract them. What's 3x's take away 2x's? You should have 1x and then a minus 5. So if 0 equals x minus 5, what does x equal? X equals 5. Oh, that problem is wrong. How many of you guys got x is 5? That's a celebration. This is bad. None of those work. If you plug them all in, if you go through A, B, C, D, none of them will work. If x is 5, how big is y? Which one do you want to plug it in, the top or the bottom? The top. So what's 3 times 5? So y has got to be 15. This is your only answer. If you do the order pair, it's going to be 5 comma 15. So that's a stupid, good question, but the answers were stupid. 10. Okay, this is how they're going to give it to you. They're going to give it to you scrambled up. So you need to either make the bottom look like the top or the top look like the bottom. How do you want to set them up? If you make the bottom look like the top, don't change the top. 3x plus y equals 3. Okay, now the bottom. All you've got to do is get your y's and x's together. So I'm going to take these x's to the left. So I'm going to plus 6x to both sides. So I'm going to have 6x plus 2y equals 6. Okay, now they're all stacked up. They're lined up. So you're going to have to descramble them. Okay, now if you look at a picture, it's very easy. You have two lines. Your two lines will either cross, the answer is where they cross, or your two lines will either be parallel, or what if they never ever cross? Then that is no solution. Or your two lines will be, the first line and the second line will be the exact same thing. So your answer is where they touch. How many answers do you have? You've got many, infinitely many. So kill A. You're never going to have two solutions. They're either going to cross once, they will never ever cross, or it's the exact same line in disguise, which is the case right here. Look at this top and bottom. What's suspicious about this top and bottom? Yeah, they're the, you can either, if you doubled this top or if you divided this bottom by 2, you're going to get the same thing. So if I double the top, it's going to give me 6x, it's going to give me 2y, and it's going to give me 6. This line and this line are the exact same, so your answer has got to be, if it's the same line, then you're going to have millions and millions of answers. Huh? Uh-oh. Hold on. We might have a error. If it's wrong, then it's... So what is x talking about? What is y talking about? Yeah. X is going to be the chili. Y is going to be the salsa. So they don't want you to solve it. They just want you to take this and write a system, which is, was it D? Is this your right answer? So 3 chilies and 2 salsas is $10, 7 cents. 2 chilies, 4 salsas is $12.98. So don't even solve it, just set it up. So you guys to put A or B, whatever you think your answer is. I mean, play it safe and double check it. If you work it through, let's look at A. What's x times x? X squared. What's x times 3? 3x. What's the negative 4 times x? Negative 4x. What's the negative 4 times 3? Negative 12. So if you clean this up, x squared minus x minus 12 should match up with that, and it doesn't. So if you double check your answer, Sometimes you could catch a mistake, and if you just make a silly mistake with the sign, that's gonna jack you up. So it's gotta be D. That's the correct answer, because a negative 4 times a negative 3 is a positive 12, but a negative 4 add a negative 3 is a negative 7. What about this guy? Okay, this is your answer right here. Because you have 1x squared, you have, these are all x's, x, you've got 6 x's if you count them. But these guys are just 1's. So what do you have vertically? What is the x of 1 and 1 and 1 and 1? That's the same thing as 1x and how many 1's? 4 1's. So that's the same as x plus 4. What do you got across the top? X and 2 1's, so you got x plus 2. So it's x plus 4 multiplied by x plus 2. So D. It's got to be D. Or you could go through and multiply forward until you found which one of these gives you this for an answer. You got to have 1x squared, 6 x's, and 8 1's. That's genius. Why do these negatives jack this picture up? It's all positive. There's no negatives. So if you do what D-Love does, use your logic and say that's the one with all positives. It's got to be D. 13, 14. Hey, work it out. What is 9x times x? 9x squared. What's 9x times a negative 2? Negative 18x. What's the negative 8 times x? Negative 8x. What's the negative 8 times negative 2? That's a plus 16. Combine these two. What's negative 18 and negative 8? Negative 26. This works, and this works, but this does not work. So you got to talk yourself out of A. Don't go with A. Don't go with B. Don't go with C. The only one that works is D. 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4. If you go forward, you're going to get 9x squared. And then that's a minus 12x. And then do the same thing is going to give you another minus 12x. There's my minus 24x. Minus 4 times minus 4 is a plus 16. D is the only one that's going to work. 15. So look at 3 of these work. A works because square root of 5 squared is going to be square root of 5 times square root of 5, which is square root of 25, which is just 5. So you're going to have a 5, and that's going to do the same with 10. Square root of 10 squared is going to be square root of 10 times square root of 10. That's square root of 100. That's just 10. So if I do 10 add 5, that's 15. Same with B. If I add those, square root of 15 squared, the square root of any number times itself is just that number. C is the square root of 25 times the square root of 100. That's 5 plus 10. They all give you 15 except for the very last one. This does not give you 15, so that's your answer. D.